Good morning. I just nursed my son and now my oven is preheated. So let's get the loaves in the oven. Hi, I'm Anna, and today I wanted to take you along as I share what it's really like to bake for a farm stand. This is a pretty simple operation. I have a normal kitchen, a normal oven, but I'm able to bake up to 6 loaves at a time, and I also make focaccia. So let's actually get into the menu before I tell you how our farm stand works. So I'm still refining how many loaves I want to sell at the farm stand per day. So today I'm making a mix of my plain sourdough loaves, which I'm using fresh milled flour that I milled myself here at my house. And I'm also making focaccia. Focaccia tends to be more of a fun buy if you're going to the farm stand looking for something fun. Whereas the plain loaves, I'm pricing for affordability, and that's really where my heart is. As a baker, especially with the fresh milled flour, it can be very nutrient dense, and I want everybody in my community or everybody who comes and visits to be able to grab a loaf and feed their family with it for the week. So the farm stand is open 3 days a week, on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and we open at 9 a.m. So thankfully, I, as a baker, don't have to get up in the early hours of the morning. Typically, since it's summer, I will throw together the dough in the afternoon or evening of the day before and let it ferment on the counter for a few hours. My house is very warm at this time of year, so I don't need to wait too long before I put it in the fridge for a cold ferment. At this point in my sourdough journey, I've been baking for my family for 3 years, and so I know what the dough should look like, and I know how to make it work for my schedule. Something that I'm really not willing to do at this point is to get up super early. I have a 1-year-old, and so I'm already getting up early with him. But if I'm not getting regular sleep, then I'm not a happy and present mom, and that's my number one priority. So this as a side hustle is really beneficial. My son can be a part of it with me when he's awake. It doesn't take me very long. Honestly, probably throwing together the dough is the most strenuous part, and that takes less than an hour, stretch and folds included, and then I'll just let it ferment, put it in the fridge. The next morning, I'll get up, and even though I'm not a morning person, I usually have about an hour of baking. For a 9 o'clock open, I'll start at 6 o'clock, and as long as I don't have more than 6 loaves to bake or 6 focaccia to bake, I can get all of that baking done within an hour and a half. It's important to let the loaves rest so they're not really hot before I bag them up, and then I'll deliver them to the farm stand before 9 o'clock. And as a mom, I've never been a morning person. I've never gotten up before my son. This is the first time that I am regularly doing that. And honestly, sometimes he wakes up like 15 minutes after I do. But just having this time where my brain is off, I don't need to say anything. I don't need to think anything. My hands just know what to do. That's been so beneficial for me. It's honestly like a creative outlet for me. And in motherhood, I think that's been so important. And so, yeah, it's just been a really fun, creative endeavor that I'm so grateful for. So let's get into specifics about pricing and how I'm doing this. So like I said before, my plain sourdough loaves, I want that to be my most important product and my most accessible product. And so I'm making these rustic loaves, and I'm charging $10 for them. Other comparable bakers are charging $12, $13, $14 for their loaves. And they're not milling their flour fresh like the day that they're making their loaves. But like I said, I really want those loaves to be accessible. And then the focaccia is more of a fun item, maybe more of a luxury item. That's why I charge $12, even though those focaccias, dough-wise, it's far less dough than a whole loaf, but I found that $12 is still pretty comparable to other bakers in my area. You might be wondering how I'm able to bake this many focaccias and this many loaves in my normal oven. I have these enamel roasters. They're 10 inches, and so they perfectly fit in my oven. 3 on top and 3 on bottom. I move the rack up, and then I will switch them halfway through the bake so that they'll have a nice even bake. I can link the enamel roasters that I use in the description box. And then for the focaccia, I'm just using aluminum pie tins. I'll also link those. I'm letting these focaccia proof while my bread dough is baking, and now I'm gonna go out to the garden for my favorite part. This step is really completely unnecessary, but I like to gather edible flowers or herbs from the garden to put on the focaccia. It's so fun. Let's see what we can find today. Good morning, how are you? If you are looking to do something similar to this or bake for a farm stand, I would encourage you to go for it. I'm having the most fun. I would also say that it depends on what your goals are financially, whether or not this is worth it to you. Right now, my goal is just to cover my grocery bills. I am not looking to grow a massive business at this point. I'm just starting out. And I'm also looking for something that I can do with my hands and my son can be around. Whereas I also work remotely, but that kind of work is not very conducive to having him around. And so I think we need to be realistic about, especially starting out something like this. You're not going to be making boatloads of money at first. You need to find your market. I'm still working on finding the people who are going to come back week after week after week for my specific bread. And that just takes time. But that's something that I have. I have time and I have the capacity right now to be baking extra loaves. If and when loaves don't sell, I will eat them. I have friends who will eat them, and I will cut it up and put it in the freezer so that I can always have bread for me and my family. And so it's really, I'm already doing this kind of thing. It's really a low risk situation for me, especially because my ingredients are shelf stable. Like, I invested in 50 pounds of wheat berries for this, but those stored correctly will last me years to come. So from a baking and inventory perspective, this is a very low risk endeavor. I'm sweating. It's warm in the oven. And as a mom, this is exactly the kind of work that I would love to step into more.
Look at that mommy, dude. That mommy's killing it.
It's just so conducive and flexible when you're able to bake in your own home.
Focaccia looks fluffy.
It does. It's very conducive to the flexibility that you need to be a mother when you're able to bake in your own home. You might need to wake up a little bit early to be able to bake, but that's a sacrifice that I am personally willing to make 10 times over instead of having to job outside the home at this point or take on more hours at my remote job. The bread has been resting, and so have I been, and now I am filling out my labels, cutting them, and I will label all my packaging. Cottage food laws vary by state, and in my state, all of the information that I need to include are on these labels that I print at home, and I have to include the date that everything was processed. So I'm writing that in. If you're looking to do something similar, I would check your state's cottage food laws. That is a little bit about me and my micro bakery. I appreciate you watching this video, and feel free to message me if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.
Originally it was just like a sea salt.
Right.
Pan. Crack pan.
Hang on, Elliot. It won't take me that long.
Okay.
And I'm all done. I'm gonna go set up at the farm stand.